Football, cricket, rugby or tennis. Whatever your sport, it's played professionally by thousands of youngsters every week in the UK. What most people don't know is a lot of youngsters' careers and sometimes their lives are cruelly cut short.
One Saturday night, normal night, had tea, watched match today, he went to bed and didn't wake up the next morning.
Lying in ICU, and I was wondering what the hell had been going on. To wake up in that situation was quite scary.
When one of your players dies like that, the first thing you try and do, the first thing I did, was to try and work out why.
12 fit and healthy young people in the UK die from cardiac related death every week. So I've gone in depth to find out more about cardiac death in athletes and to find out some individual stories about people that have been directly affected.
A club that's experienced more tragedy than most is Tunbridge Angels. The Ryman Premier outfit are fighting for promotion into the Conference South, but they're also fighting a battle on a different scale. Following the death on the pitch of trialist Junior Deanne and the youth player Jack Madams, the community-based club are pushing hard to ensure that tragedies like these never happen again.
It's his first trial game. Yeah, about G'd come on as a second half substitute. Yeah, ball was cleared out of the box, he was playing at the back. It just fell backwards and that was it. There was no hint of, he was keen to get on. He'd impressed at the training. So yeah, no rhyme or reason. I mean, he was a fit, healthy 24-year-old. Sometimes you just can't bring him back. And that fateful night at Whiteleaf, you had two very well qualified physios who kept Junior going for 20 minutes plus before paramedics arrived and took over. And then he was taken straight to St George. That was twice that it's affected the club, which is very odd.
You'd never want to see anything like that again, and I think what Cry's done with us getting all the players screened, it's sort of like, it's a big relief for the club, for me as a manager, knowing I wouldn't have to go through that again, and the players' peace of mind as well. That season it brought us all together, and I think the club's gone from strength to strength after that as well.
We sat down, myself, Roger, Melvin, and just said, look, this is, if there's something we can do, let's do it. Roger came up with the idea of Football Fight Back, which was a fund that we put together with Roger's help with the charity Cry. When we set out, we thought we could do 500. The response was overwhelming. Fans were extremely generous. We had a couple of big fundraisers to try and promote the event, and it took off from there.
About 10 years ago, a friend of my mum's, actually their son died with a heart condition, which prompted my mum to put me up the screening, which obviously Cry were running at the time. Went for the screening, come back with a slight abnormality, so went for another checkup and actually found I had a hole in my heart. So that basically led on to a few different consultations and stuff like that, and I had the operation done, which was to close it, and since then it's been absolutely fine. They just kind of said, if you don't get this sorted now, long term in the future you're looking at conditions like heart attack out of the blue and things like that, so they just said it's lucky that you found it at the time you did, to be honest. It's all healed as it needed to, and obviously the recovery's been absolutely fine because I have no issues. Anything can happen, and to have, like you say, Tommy's had his screen, he's everything's hunky-dory if you like, and that's pleasing, but as a manager you're always fearful. Staff like Melvin and Tina that can deal with situations in terms of there and then. Afterwards it's a lot different, and other clubs have got physios like them, you're halfway there, but a major disaster I think has brought the club very close together.
Everybody's been very supportive. We've had some clubs at our level give us good donations towards the fund. But what we were really hoping for initially when we took it up was to find another partner to come in and kick it on in a different area. That's never come about, and so that's disappointing. But at the same time, no, 900 kids, fantastic, take that all day long.
While Tunbridge Angels have made important inroads into the issue of cardiac screening, much more needs to be done. They have done important work screening 900 young people, yet it is still a silent killer, with often little to no symptoms. To understand some of the science behind the conditions, I visited resident cardiologist Gerardo Finicaro at St George's University in London. And Gerardo told me about how they can be the signs of a killer heart problem in waiting.
Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy may express with cardiac symptoms. The main symptoms are shortness of breath or decreased exercise tolerance, chest pain, palpitations, or loss of consciousness. So these symptoms, if there are symptoms, they should be investigated. So if a young individuals have these kind of symptoms, they should be investigated with the further tests, ECG, echocardiogram.
Gerardo has been a specialist in this area for many years and conducted a study into whether death occurred amongst young people during exercise or during sleep.
In the majority of the cases, in 80% of the cases, sudden death occur during rest or during sleep, while only 20% of the cases die during exercise. The first thing that we do is, as clinicians, is to suggest to the patient to avoid competitive exercise. And this is because what we believe is that several physiological changes as mechanical stress or electrolyte imbalance, acid-base imbalance that are absolutely physiological and normal in normal individuals, in individuals that don't have cardiac disease, may trigger instead sudden death in individuals that harbor a cardiac disease, has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
After visiting Gerardo, I decided it would be a good idea to get my heart screened myself in order to eliminate or highlight any particular problems. The screenings are particularly in-depth and are fantastic value considering they are free of charge. The main issue is awareness. 900 young people is a great start, but with 12 young people a week across the UK dying unnecessarily, it's an issue that needs to be talked about more. I'm back here, home of Tunbridge Angels Football Club, to get my own heart screened and find out whether I have any heart problems myself. It's from the Football Fight Back campaign. I had to read a form and sign a consent waiver to ensure I knew what was required. Thankfully I got the all clear, but the charity were kind enough to give me an extended heart scan where I could see my heart pumping on all kinds of different monitors. The angle showed my heart in real time and the blood pumping from the different valves. A diseased heart and athletic heart are often very similar, so it's important the charity can distinguish between them both. The monitors help them do that.
I'm just taking some measurements.
Someone who knows the pain of cardiac disease more than most is Roger Madams. Roger's son Jack died just a few days before his 18th birthday. He was an aspiring young footballer, and Roger told me his story and how he dealt with heartbreak.
Jack Madams, he was 17-year-old, he was in the absolute prime of his life. He was just finishing his A-levels, fit, sportsman. He represented the county at football, rugby, school record holder for 100 metres. He was in the England schoolboy squad. He played centre forward. He was about 6'1", 6'2", big, strapping lad, so he played up front, basically as a sponge. And Akin Fenwer, a tall, more slim Akin Fenwer, the ball stuck to him and he could thump the ball in from any distance. And on one Saturday night, normal night, had tea, watched match today, he went to bed and didn't wake up the next morning. As it turned out, he had an electrical condition in his heart, called Brugada syndrome. It was pretty harrowing at the time, but we made a conscious decision as a family right from the off that we would not hide away. We were very proud of what Jack managed to do in his short life, so we made ourselves as available as possible to reporters.
Since Jack's passing, Roger has done plenty of charity work in the community. He is a recent Pride of Medway winner and he regularly cycles for Cry. He has attempted to cycle from London to Paris for the charity, as well as cycling to every Ryman Premier League ground, all within the name of a good cause.
We toured the away grounds last season. People jumped out of planes and cake sales and craft show at the club. Probably raised about £30,000 for a Ryman Premier team who get an average crowd of about 450. It's a phenomenal effort, and from the chairman, the manager to the players, everybody's bought into it, and it's helped bring the club together to do something positive from pretty dire straits to having something we're quite very proud of being able to deliver. A number of things come up. One of the Tunbridge players is running the London Marathon for Cry. The coach did that he did a Brighton Marathon last year, so Tom Fitt, the midfield, is running the London Marathon for Cry. We'll continue our Football Fight Back campaign for as long and as hard as we can.
Not all stories of young cardiac disease have ended in tragedy though. My last interview highlights the importance of cardiac screening. Tim Butt had dreams of becoming a pro cyclist, being an athlete all of his life, before a terrifying moment at home changed his life forever, with no warning. He's lucky to be sat here with me, telling his story.
At work, got into triathlon, and I really found a love for that sport, doing triathlon, and competed at national youth championships, and then progressed into junior age group and into senior age group as well. And after leaving university, I decided that I wanted to get into cycling a bit more. I started racing as a fourth cat cyclist, and by the end of August I was a first cat cyclist. I've been home for about 1 week. I had done 1 or 2 races whilst being in the UK, and then that evening of that race I went out. I came home again the next morning, and that's the last thing I really remember. I had a seizure whilst at home, had collapsed, and my eyes went all glazed. Luckily my mother was in the next room, and she heard me making some groaning noises and sort of rolling around on the floor, and immediately called 999, and they removed me into a wheelchair. And at that point of sitting up, I collapsed again, and I went into cardiac arrest, and luckily I was in hospital because I had immediate attention to all the medical staff there. They obviously raised the alarm and put me straight back onto the hospital bed, started doing CPR on me, and wheeled me straight into the ICU unit, where I immediately had a load of professionals just working and doing the defibrillator shocks. So I had 5 defibrillator shocks over 25 minutes.
He was diagnosed with an electrical heart problem which at times he struggled to deal with. He has since made a recovery, but the enormity of his struggle is still laid bare. He remains positive about his experience though.
And it was found that I had a condition called a long QT syndrome, which means that there's an irregular length of time in the heartbeat, which can make you more susceptible to having a cardiac arrest and going to that sort of death rhythm that was described to me. Yeah, having identified that, I had a surgery to fit a pacemaker into my chest, so that sits in here. That's also doubles up as a internal defibrillator, so that's constantly monitoring my heart rhythm, and if there's any abnormalities, then it can administer some shocks. Leaving hospital, I thought that would be that, and it was a one-off occurrence. I've been told not to carry on with my elite level cycling sort of aspirations there, but it was a long process to come to terms with what I had, probably about a year of being really tired and probably just getting back to myself and coming to terms mentally about what condition I was in.
Although very rare, cardiac deaths in young athletes still happen in the UK every single day. It is only the hard work of Cry and others that have helped bring the rate down and helped athletes enjoy their professional careers with no health dangers. Sport should be a fun way to unwind and not a factor for cardiac disease. And it's important to spread the awareness and stop families suffering unnecessary loss.